You think success is about talent or luck or having the right plan. That's what you were told. That's what everyone repeats. But here's the truth nobody warned you about. Success doesn't feel like winning. It feels like losing your old life. It feels like being misunderstood. It feels lonely before it feels powerful. And most people quit not because they're weak, but because they weren't ready for what success actually demands. You thought it would give you freedom. Instead, it takes things away. Your comfort, your excuses, your old identity, the version of you that blends in, the version that feels safe. Nobody told you that the moment you start moving forward, everything inside you will try to pull you back. Your mind will panic. Your habits will resist. Your relationships will shift. And you'll start asking a dangerous question. Is something wrong with me? Because if success was really meant for you, why does it feel so heavy? Why does it feel like you're fighting yourself? Why does every step forward feel like you're walking against gravity? Here's the part no one says out loud. If success feels easy, you're not close. And if it feels uncomfortable, confusing, and isolating, you might finally be on the right path. But there's an enemy standing between you and that path. You can't see it. You can't punch it, and you've been feeding it your entire life. The enemy isn't failure. It isn't other people. It isn't lack of money, time, or opportunity. The enemy is the version of you that was trained to survive, not win. From the moment you were young, you were taught how to fit. Sit still. Follow rules. Don't ask too many questions. Don't stand out. Be realistic. Be grateful. Be normal. That system didn't train leaders. It trained employees. It didn't train builders. It trained followers. And it didn't train you to think. It trained you to comply. You learned to trade time for approval, effort for validation, safety for comfort. And slowly, without noticing, you built a belief system that says, don't risk too much. Don't want too much. Don't try unless you're sure. That belief system is the enemy because success requires the opposite. It requires uncertainty. It requires risk. It requires wanting more than what's reasonable. But every time you feel that pull, that voice shows up. The voice that says, who do you think you are? People like you don't get that. Be patient. Be realistic. That voice sounds logical. It sounds mature. It sounds responsible. But it's fear wearing a suit. It's comfort pretending to be wisdom. And it keeps you stuck in a life that feels fine, but empty. You scroll. You consume. You plan. You wait. You tell yourself you're getting ready. But deep down, you know the truth. You're avoiding the cost because success doesn't ask politely. It demands. It demands focus when you want distraction, discipline when you want comfort, and identity change when you want familiarity. And here's the brutal part. You can't defeat this enemy with motivation. You can't outwork it with hustle because it lives inside your mind. It shows up as logic, as patience, as being smart. But every day you listen to it, your life stays the same. Different days, same patterns, same doubts, same results. And that leads you into the psychological trap. You don't feel lazy. You feel tired, not physically, mentally, emotionally. You wake up already drained, not because you're doing too much, but because you're carrying too many thoughts. Your mind is loud, constantly evaluating, comparing, second-guessing. You replay conversations. You imagine outcomes. You think about what could go wrong. You think about how others might judge you. And all that thinking feels like progress. But it's not. It's a loop. You tell yourself, I just need more clarity. But clarity never comes before action. It comes after. You tell yourself, I'll start when I feel confident. But confidence is built by doing, not thinking. You tell yourself, I'm waiting for the right time. But the right time is a myth invented by fear. So you stay stuck, not because you don't want success, but because your mind is addicted to safety. And safety feels productive. Planning feels productive. Learning feels productive. Watching videos like this feels productive. But nothing changes. And slowly, frustration builds. You see other people moving ahead. You tell yourself they're lucky, or connected, or gifted. But what they really did was tolerate discomfort longer than you. They acted while unsure. They looked foolish. They moved before they felt ready. Meanwhile, you stayed in your head, and your head is not a safe place. It's a courtroom. Every idea is cross-examined. Every desire is questioned. Every risk is put on trial. And fear always wins, because fear argues for survival, not greatness. You start feeling split. One part of you wants more. Another part wants peace. And those two parts are at war. That's why you feel tired. That's why you feel confused. That's why you feel behind. You're not lacking discipline. You're trapped in an identity that values comfort over growth, and the world offers false solutions. Wake up earlier. Grind harder. Stay positive. Manifest it. Just believe. Sounds good. Feels good. Doesn't work. Because telling someone to work harder when they're already mentally exhausted is cruel. Hustle culture tells you to ignore your mind. Positivity culture tells you to lie to it. Motivation tells you to hype yourself up. But none of them change who you are being. You can wake up at 5 a.m. You can journal. You can visualize. You can repeat affirmations. But if your identity is still built around safety, you'll sabotage yourself quietly. You'll procrastinate in smart ways. You'll stay busy but avoid the real move. You'll call it strategy. You'll call it timing. You'll call it being careful. But it's fear. False solutions fail because they treat success like an action problem. It's not. It's an identity problem. Until your self-image changes, your behavior won't. You can't outperform how you see yourself. And that brings us to the turning point. Here's the shift that changes everything. Success is not something you chase. It's something you decide, not emotionally. Not someday. Decide who you are. Napoleon Hill wrote about this without saying it directly. Definiteness of purpose. That's not a goal. That's an identity. When you decide fully, there's no debate, no waiting, no permission seeking. You stop asking, can I? And start acting like this is who I am. If this idea is hitting you, leave a comment with one word. Decided. Because that decision matters more than any tactic. Now comes the system, not a schedule, not a routine, a way of being. First, you stop negotiating with yourself. Most people lose before they start because they negotiate. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it if I feel good. I'll do it if it works. You don't negotiate with gravity. You don't negotiate with time. You don't negotiate with your values. So you stop negotiating with your future. You act when you said you would, even when it's uncomfortable, especially then. Second, you start measuring yourself differently. Not by results, by standards. Did you show up when it mattered? Did you act without reassurance? Did you move despite fear? That's progress. Results lag. Identity leads. Third, you learn to sit in discomfort without escaping. No scrolling, no distractions, no mental stories. You let boredom burn. You let doubt speak without responding. Because the moment you don't react, it loses power. Fourth, you build evidence, not hype, not motivation, evidence. Small wins, daily proof that you do what you say. That rewires trust with yourself. And trust is power. Fifth, you protect your mind, not by being positives, but by being selective. You limit input. You stop consuming what you're not ready to execute. You stop listening to voices that don't live the life you want. And slowly, your internal war begins. Old habits fight back. Your old identity gets loud. You're changing. You're acting different. You're risking too much. Fear shows up as nostalgia. Comfort shows up as temptation. And this is where most people retreat, because becoming someone new feels like betrayal. You're leaving the old you behind, and that version of you wants to survive. So it will bargain. It will distract. It will delay. You feel resistance in your body, tight chest, heavy mind. restless energy. This is not a sign to stop. It's proof you're crossing a line. On the other side of that line is a new identity. You don't chase motivation. You don't need approval. You move calmly, decisively. You think less, act more. You don't explain yourself. You don't overshare. You trust your judgment. And you stop reacting emotionally to the world. You respond intentionally. You don't feel fearless. You feel grounded because fear no longer decides. You do. And now, the final challenge. Be honest. Where are you pretending? Where are you waiting? Where are you negotiating with a life you don't want? This week, make one move that scares you quietly. No announcement, no validation, just action. And if you want more of this kind of thinking, subscribe. Not for motivation, for alignment. Because success isn't about becoming more, it's about becoming real. And most people never do.